Welcome back to the Nerdrotic Podcast. My name is Gary Buechler. I come to you from nerdrotic.com, and I am live once again in San Francisco, back from traveling and down in Los Angeles. I have my co-host and good friend, Jon Reed. What is up, John?
How's it going, man? Happy Sunday. We're going up against the Grammys, so that should probably improve our views tonight.
Great alternate programming, right?
Yes.
We're also going up against After Trek, or maybe that's over now,
Yes.
which I have not watched, so I don't know if it's because
I have not heard the best things about After Trek.
You have not? Maybe I'll watch one. So yeah, we're here covering Star Trek Discovery, lucky episode 13. What's past is Prologue. And John, I kind of feel like Charlie Brown a little bit when Lucy, football, all that stuff. Really have tried to give this show a fair shot, and I did totally hate this episode, but in our very long pre-production meeting, we spoke about it's getting kind of ridiculous, but it can still be fun. Okay, so what we try to do here is be fair. All right. And I don't want to bury the lead on this one, the way they ended it. Midnight Edge did a great podcast about 6 months to a year ago, just breaking down what they knew of Star Trek Discovery. This is prior and after Brian Fuller left, and they pretty much nailed it. They talked about how it was supposed to be an anthology, and then they changed it to a series. And I clearly remember them mentioning something about they're going to reboot canon. So do you think that's what they did this episode, or you think this is just a temporary thing?
So here's the thing. I don't know enough about Star Trek canon. It seems as if, and also like everything I thought about the first half of the season and the changes they were making and stuff, like they were able to actually explain through the mirror universe Lorca pretty well, especially in this episode. I feel like they did a really good job of laying out like what his goal was and why everything felt so weird about what the Discovery was doing in the first half of the season. Like it was all this mission to get Lorca back, and like this whole idea of fate and his like belief that he was tied to Michael in some way. So like it explained away a lot of really weird things that we were like, why would he ever even bring her aboard? Like, what is Discovery doing? This guy's so straight. Like, there were a lot of things that I feel like they did a really good job of then just explaining within the context of this particular show. So it's hard for me to say if they're like just going to keep doing that, where they just kind of rebooting its own canon by explaining away weird alternate reality things and stuff like that, or if they're trying to affect the overall canon. Plus, I don't know enough about the Star Trek overall canon to really say like what's a good thing to reboot versus a bad thing to reboot, if they should be touching it at all, like, so for me, I looked at this episode as like ridiculous. Right, like it's a ridiculous episode. They're trying to explain a lot of stuff. Nothing really makes it, like the science behind it is like, oh, we're never going to get out of this thing. Our shields can't take it. Oh, here's this loophole that like really there's no explanation for, that we can now get away. And like they're doing all these kind of ridiculous things. I tweeted out earlier that the title of this show should be Game of Star Trek Wars Discovery, because they've got like all these elements of Game of Thrones, and they've got all of these elements of Star Wars with like, oh, we've got to take down the shield to blow this thing up, and oh, I've taken her captive, and that's how they get into the throne room, like like the Wookiee capture, the fake Chewie captive, and then they have a moon door like literally on Star Trek on the Emperor's ship. So like it felt like they were pulling a lot of elements of things from other content, and that's what made it feel ridiculous to me, because like
current events.
Current events, like the actual excitement of the episode I thought was fun. I thought like the fight scene in the hallway was fun. I thought that everything that was going on in the Discovery was really cool. Saru as captain is badass. Like there were a lot of really cool things going on in this episode, and then there was a bunch of ridiculousness. So I don't know, like I'm coming at it from a very different headspace where like, yeah, maybe they are really effing with canon. I like Star Trek, but I've never delved into like hardcore Star Trek canon. As you guys know, as listeners, I'm just kind of viewing this as like, hey, I really liked the original series. I really liked Star Trek The Next Generation when I was a kid. And now I'm like getting into it and was looking for that kind of a Star Trek show. And like, that's not what they delivered, but I'm starting to get used to what they're doing because they are messing with a lot of stuff, but I'm starting to trust them a little bit more to explain it in a self-contained manner within Discovery instead of having it seep out into like a larger explanation. I don't know if you're trusting them in that way or not yet.
You know, thankfully, and if you've watched this podcast all along, you know, we're not purists. We don't know everything about Star Trek. I've been watching it all my life, though. As far as messing with canon, it's just if the older a property gets, you're going to mess with canon. The argument I had in the beginning is, why can't we just do this 80 years after Next Generation, and then you could mess with all the stuff you want? You know, it's weird that they taken the prologue angle or prequel angle again. And but I mean, we've discussed all that. So at this point, I'm like, whatever. And sometimes ridiculous is good. Listen, I was a fan of older Doctor Who. That is one of the most ridiculous shows ever. But I love it. You don't usually get that with Star Trek, but they have clearly set out to like, we're going to change it. And honestly, I got to catch myself. I used to bitch about Rick Berman's Trek towards the end, even with Enterprise, that it got too stale, too boring, and Voyager. And you know, now they gave us something that was totally different. And then I was complaining at first and it was legit. I was pissed off and, it was jarring. But you're this far into it. It's, again, it's their property to do with what they want. So I got to decide as a viewer is like, am I just going to have fun with this or am I going to stop watching it? Cause like, just why would you waste time watching something you hate? So the end of the episode, which we'll get to, we're going to recap it, kind of rallied it for me. There's a lot of things I had a problem with this episode while still pretty much enjoying it. Like you said, I like the pace of the episode. Saru's captain was rad. I love that. And I hope they keep it that way. I'm fine with that. But we can start going over the episode. It moved pretty fast. This one, I don't know how long it was, but it felt like last episode, it felt kind of short. So
it was 42 and a half, I think, minutes, right between 42 and 43 minutes, including the end credits and next week on stuff, which is, I think, about right. You're right, though. It did feel like it went quickly, like really quickly.
It did, and we start out getting Commander Landry back, which is great because any BSG alum on a show is just a good thing. Unfortunately, she's only back for an episode, but that was cool to see her come back. And I was wondering, in the beginning of the episode, we saw Lorca getting his crew out, and I'm like, okay, is it going to be a good Lorca, or is he just going to start twirling his mustache and be evil? And he's pretty evil, actually. We did not see an alternate Michael Burnham either. So there's still a lot of dangling questions that we'll get.
There's a prime Lorca out there and there's a mirror Michael out there potentially, right? Like they might be dead. We don't know, but like we haven't seen them and their existence is ambiguous at best, right? So or they're down, their downfall, the fact that they might be dead is ambiguous at best. So yeah, there's some key people we still have yet to meet.
Yeah, and real quick, I'll just say this. For those of you in the chat, we will get to you after we recap the episode. What's up, Ghost World? And others in there. We're not ignoring you. We will get to your comments, questions, and corrections as usual.
Yeah, and if you guys want to help support us, we've got the tip jar and super chat, so you can use the little $ below in the chat window to like give us little tips, ask us questions. We'll definitely get to those immediately as you guys send them through. And if you want to also support us just on a general basis, you can head over to patreon.com. We got our first 5 patrons over on Patreon, so that's really exciting. And yeah, it's patreon.com/nerdrotic. We've got a bunch of tiers set up. And again, once we get to $200 a month on there, we will start having patron-only podcasts and patron-only content. So once we hit that goal, we'll start to have even more content for you guys who decide to support us monetarily as well as with your time and questions and that sort of thing.
And I'm a lucky guy. I got another week off, so I can get to all that stuff this week. It's going to be lots of fun, lots of podcasting this week. So we learned pretty quick. We were both hoping that they were going to kind of stay in the mirror universe last episode. By the way, last episode was really good. I'll stand by that. I liked the last episode a lot. even watched it again. We learned pretty quick that it's going to pretty much wrap up this episode.
Yeah.
They really sped up the whole Lorca thing. So he's just battling for the throne, and he's more of a purist than Philippa is, Emperor Philippa Georgiou, and he wants to make the empire. He didn't say they didn't say great again. What did they say? I forgot. make the empire great again.
I didn't notice that. That's hilarious, because I had notes about like the meritocracy versus democracy thing that they were getting into and stuff. So there was definitely that going on in the background. However, I have to say, this show, like I feel like the worries were a little bit overblown, because we're not getting like an Avatar style, like here's this corporation mining material. Like all that stuff is kind of handled in with a little bit more subtlety in this show, in my opinion. Like I give it like a B-, right? Like I don't need that stuff in there, but I do think that there is a place for like sci-fi to draw on like what's going on in the world. I think that there's some of the best stuff has come out of that. It's just about how you deal with it, if it's one-sided or not, and all of those types of things that we've talked about before. But I feel like this series, they throw little things at you, but they don't really harp on it like a lot of other stuff tends to. And I have to give it a little bit of credit for that, because like I don't need it in there. But the fact that it's not overwhelming this episode, like they could have gone really all out on like Lorca versus, whatever. And like they didn't really, right? Like we don't even know really what the Emperor is all about at this point. She was like super evil, and now she like seemed to be like an ally, and we don't know where she's going to go in the future. So like maybe that's why they're not doing it, is they want to keep the motivations hidden. But I don't know. I have to give the show a little bit of credit in the way that they like put it in there, they inject it to kind of reflect what's going on, but they don't like dwell in it for long periods of time.
I didn't have a problem. Yeah, it was actually just they said that one time.
Yes.
We know nothing about this empire other than they are humans only, and everybody else sucks, and that's pretty much it. And that's including Philippa, but I guess Lorca just thought she was soft, and who knows? That's how that empire is set up, I guess. But what very little they told us about it. So he gets his crew back together and finds the other Stamets who was hiding out behind like a little cloaked wall or something, and he's pretty much a coward. And
we find out that Stamets was part of the coup, and he's the one who betrayed Lorca in the first place. Lorca, before he left to come to the Prime Universe, staged a coup against Georgiou. She ends up driving him out of there, right? Like that's what we find out in last episode. This episode, we find out that the reason she was able to preempt the coup is because Stamets was feeding her information. Like he was like a double agent. And I thought that was kind of interesting. Like this Mirror Stamets is a real dickhead. Like he's doing like really shady stuff in the Spore network, and he's like a double agent, and we don't know if he made like the ethical choice or not, because we don't know who's really better between Lorca and Georgiou at this point. So I just thought it was interesting that he was the mole, right? And we kind of find that out.
Yeah, and the alternate Stamets, or the Mirror Stamets, was using the mycelium network or whatever it's called. And he was basically sucking it dry, while the Federation is just kind of like, I guess, working in concert with it or riding along with it. That was their explanation of the science on that one.
Yeah,
and he just the first sign of trouble, he would just switch sides. So that was fine, but he didn't last very long. That's when they offed him, which was kind of surprising. I'm like, oh yeah, we're definitely not staying here. And I don't know about you, but I'd love to hear what you guys think in the chat. I would have been okay with them staying in the Mirror Universe and playing out some of the politics and that for a couple more episodes. I think it wasn't boring me or anything. It wasn't bad. So I was kind of hoping for a little more. But they just cut to the chase on this one.
I think maybe also, like, I don't know if the story warranted more time in the Mirror Universe per se. I mean, I think they could have had a story that would have been great to like be in the Mirror Universe for a very long time. But like the story they're actually telling, I don't know if like it would have been more drawn out had they stayed there longer. But because I've enjoyed the stuff in the Mirror Universe and haven't outside the mirror universe in this show so far as much. That's why I'm kind of like skeptical. It's like, hey, I like what you're doing in the mirror universe, and what you're doing outside in the prime universe is a little bit like not my favorite stuff of this season. So maybe stay in the mirror universe a little longer. It's almost like wishful thinking at that point.
Yeah. And all that buildup with Lorca, like we've had, since the third episode he showed up in, or we've had this entire season of buildup with this character and got to know, and I actually started liking the character.
Yes.
And he just turned on us, and and he's gone, which we'll get to. That's terrible.
Yeah, I don't he can't, like, we have to have Prime Lorca come into this story.
Yeah, that's definitely agreed. Sorry, I got distracted by the comments there, which I'm trying to read along, which is probably not a good idea.
So just so you know, Gary, I'm pulling comments out into my text so we can go through them later. I'm pulling the questions and things out of it.
Yeah. So, I even put in my notes that I'm still rooting for Lorca. Now that changed as the episode goes on. It's like he just turns evil and goes there. And pretty much, gets Stamets before he executes him, gets him to gas like a couple of decks in the Emperor ship, and kind of kicks ass with his one little crew. And even Landry was saying, "Listen, there's a bunch of soldiers on this ship. I don't know how the hell we're gonna do this." And he's all, "You don't think I don't have a plan?" So I was like, "Cool, we're gonna get this big old plan." And it was just get to gas a couple of decks, and that was it. So I'm like, okay, well, whatever. But yeah, there was uneven writing in this episode.
Yes.
Like there were some parts that were really good, but the whole Michael and Philippa thing, I know that they did play on this in previous mirror episodes where you see your counterpart and you still have like a connection, or your friend's counterpart, you have a connection to them, and they played on that pretty heavy with Philippa and Michael. It's just weird that she was just this evil emperor who killed a bunch of rebels, a couple episodes ago, and now she's getting all soft, and she knows that's not the real Michael, and she's going along with her plans instead of just killing her and taking her ship, which, and trying to find out about the Federation.
That was definitely the weakest part of the episode, is the switch of Lorca and Georgiou's like motivations and like our perception of them. Like we didn't get like a really earned like redemption arc for Georgiou, right? For Mirror Philippa. All we got was like she gets basically defeated, has to retreat, and because she has no other options, now she's going to work with Michael, and we're supposed to be happy about that because we're supposed to just love Michael. And then we've got Lorca, who has been like, we don't know what his like I've liked Lorca, right? Like I feel like he's a guy who like he has too much of an ends justify the means kind of thinking about him, but like generally speaking, he's been like tactical, like he's brought us into his thought process. So then all of a sudden to see him as just like this evil guy where we don't know why we're like, he's just all of a sudden evil, and we don't like, there's no like, the turn I feel didn't happen very subtly or very like, no. And so like that was my biggest problem. And like the stuff that the reason I don't like Lorca the most is because of this irrational attachment to Michael. Otherwise, like I couldn't give you one reason why I'm anti Lorca, right? Like because he's against this evil empress. Like that's not a reason to be against him, right? Like the only reason we're supposed to feel against him is because Michael's against him now.
Yeah, exactly. He like, that's the one thing they need to explain is, okay, so because Michael likes Philippa, so she's the good one. We're going on Michael's word here without knowing anything about that world, what she's done. Like maybe she was a good emperor, maybe she was a reformer, in that world. And I guess they kind of alluded to that by Lorca saying that you let other races get to our borders or something like that, and we need to keep this pure.
Yeah,
that was it. That was all the layout. So we're just taking the word of Michael and the writers that this one's good, this one's bad, and or less bad. We'll just say she's
right, because it seems like Georgiou's done some really crappy stuff too. Like she's ruling with an iron fist, Jody actually says it's weird that I kind of like Mira Philippa more than her prime counterpart. Is it weird that I like Mira Philippa more than her prime counterpart? No, I do too.
John, is it weird that I'm rooting for Lorca not to die in this episode?
No, not at all. These are all good things. These are like, it's weird. Yeah. But
no,
no.
I the Mira Georgiou I like a lot, and I'm actually glad she didn't die. And that's what kept it going. When she we'll get to that. I don't want to jump too far ahead. Sorry.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that happened in between there. So in the meantime, like the Discovery is trying to figure out a way home. Their forest, whatever, is dying. What was it called again? That the plants that were
yeah, I just keep saying the network, but yeah, it's, I guess, the plants that power the
mycelium network or whatever it's called, had all died, and it's because of the other stamets had kind of sucked them dry, so they needed to find a way to work around that. And their workaround was basically they're gonna blow up the Emperor's palace ship with that big giant power thing or orb that's in the middle, the target basically. But it's got a dampening field around it, basically a force field, so none of their weapons. So Michael Burnham says, "Leave that to me." She pulls an Obi-Wan and lowers the shields, so they can,
or the plot of Return of the Jedi. Like, really, there's just a lot of like. That was the moment where I was like, "Wait, are they just doing Star Trek now? I mean, Star Wars now? Is that the thing?" They're really just like, okay, what happened in this part of Star Wars? Okay, just do that.
Yeah, there was a throne room fight too. Yeah,
crazy.
It was crazy. Yeah. So the science behind that is they're going to blow up the big orb and they're going to ride the energy wave, and that's going to reboot the network so they can get the hell out of Dodge and get back home, and they can luckily get exactly back to where they were. They think anyway. So, and Tilly figures that all out, and Stamets and Tilly are kind of working together now. They're not, Stamets isn't being a complete a-hole to her anymore. I guess Almost Dying will do that for you. But they worked that all out. So that's the big plan, is the Discovery is going to come in. Saru is the best part in the show, by the way. Doug Jones, lots of love for Doug Jones. He was great in The Shape of Water, and he's great in everything. Love that guy. So yeah, keep bringing that. That's fine. That's one of the good things about it. But again, this plan, and I never thought for a second like they wouldn't achieve this plan, as harrowing as it was. But one of the better things about this episode is it seems like the last 3 or 4, or since they've come back from the break, they've discovered they have a crew, and they let the crew talk, which is great, because there's a lot of other, that robot girl. I love that. That's the best alien. It reminds me of Star Trek: The Motion Picture for some reason. That looks Star Trek to me. So but again, there's lots of crazy action in this, and it still totally looks like Abrams' Trek to me. As much as they want to say it's not, and I know it's because Kurtzman's involved, but
it's like Abrams' Trek with a slight color palette shift, right? Like a more chromy color palette shift. So yeah, I agree. I think that they don't trust an audience to come along on a slower ride. So they feel the need to throw in these action beats all over the place. And to their credit, they look really good. Like, they're done well. They don't necessarily fit all the time, but like, they're done really well. So, I think they need to do a better job of like figuring out why the action needs to be there. But that's a definite pro in my book, for, and it's in the pro column for me. The fact that like when they attempt these fights, they're pretty cool. I mean, there's no like Daredevil in the hallway cool, but it's it's still pretty awesome.
Yeah, and this is a pretty good job for like just a network trying to do something that's Netflix, which there's a clear difference in quality. I mean, it's not the best execution in the world, but maybe maybe it'll get better. I did notice on Rotten Tomatoes they called this. It's now called Star Trek Discovery Chapter 1 and 2. Is that one, like, during the break? It's Chapter 1 and 2. I thought that was an interesting change in title. It could be nothing. It could be just Rotten Tomatoes doing it, but that just popped up and I thought that's interesting.
Yeah, I don't. That is interesting because it feels like that. Like chapter 1, not my favorite chapter of this story. Chapter 2, I think, is the real meat of this thing. Right,
much
it's
better.
the real beginning.
Much better. So yeah, so Michael's got to lower the shields, and Lorca has got the ship. But really quick, when he kills Stamets, by the way, that was pretty funny. He's just doing this monologuing, and he says, "I'm going to push you out. You know, you're going to die by your own invention." No, I hate poetry. And shoots
yeah, and shoots him.
That was pretty funny.
Meanwhile, you know why that's there though? That existed completely just to show us that the moon door existed, right?
Yeah.
Like it's that scene where it's like, I could do this, but we're gonna save that for my downfall.
Yep.
So I'm just gonna shoot you right now. And I thought that was like, oh, who's gonna get thrown through the moon door? You know,
I wonder.
I feel like we've done this before.
Yeah, because we have.
Okay, sweet Robin. Sweet Lorca.
Yeah, you didn't have Tyrion there to get you out of it, you know.
Yeah.
Talking about jerking off.
So good.
Oh my God, that was when Game of Thrones was good. Yeah. So Michael surprisingly has a plan that's gonna work. Don't have a doubt. For one, she reroutes the communication systems by pulling something out of the wall. That was pretty talented too.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Like whoever designed that, there's some serious flaws in the design of that thing. Yeah, she literally, and it looked like just ribbon. She just like pulls this like LED ribbon out of the wall, and it's like, okay, I've rerouted everything. She's amazing.
Well, Lorca said like her talents far surpass the mirror Michael. She's a freaking superhero. So
yeah,
there it is. There
it is.
Yep. So again, there's no the Michael Philippa thing where she just starts working with her. I was totally confused by this. I'm like, what? Okay, it's like this show was written by like 3 different people, and 2 of the characters are just so out of character. So I wasn't believing any of this for a minute, and I figured that okay, so they're probably going to keep the Emperor around, and that would be good. I think they just could have executed that a little better. Just that whole exchange between them was terrible. It was not a good part of this episode. Okay,
yeah, it was the worst part of it. Fickle actually commented in the chat, I found it hard to believe that Georgie would just let Burnham turn off the containment field to destroy the ship because now they're buddies. Like, yes, totally agreed. Like, I guess it's more like a revenge thing. It's like, hey, if you want to take down all these jerks that mutinied against me, let's go for it, you know? And it has some parallels to like the mutiny against her by Michael at the beginning of the series, and like, you know, poetic as Lorca would call it. But yeah, I don't understand this Mirror Georgiou, and I'm really happy that it looks like it's going to be a focus for the next few episodes, because this felt like a season finale, right? Like leaving the Mirror universe and killing Lorca felt like it was a season finale, but it's not. We have 2 more episodes now, I think, right? Where we're going to see probably what Mirror Georgiou is about. And I think that that's probably the most interesting thing left in the show, is to find out what she's all about.
And she could be a very interesting character too. I really think so. I'll just forget the fact how they got her here. I'm glad that she was on the ship. But and the problem I was having is, Phil talked about this in our aesthetics class that we usually took. It's called a mental map. Okay, you need to have a mental map of what the hell's going on in your show. So you got to know like where everything is, where everybody is. And I don't know. I didn't get the impression that Lorca had taken over that giant ship by, wiping out a couple of decks, and it just didn't seem like there was enough people on the ship. I don't know. I didn't know she was that defeated. If they explain that a little better, then I can understand her motivations a little better. Or just be, like you said, being suicidal and like, screw it. Let's just, I'm going to die anyway. I'm screwed. Let's just go. Because
that's what she says at the end, is like, I'm a broken captain. Just leave me with, like the captain of the Titanic watching the ship go down. And yeah, I think that was probably her main motivation, but it just feels a little bit weak, and that's where I think that maybe it has to do with the pacing of if this were supposed to be an anthology series originally, they needed to tie a lot of this stuff up, so they had to kind of rush through some of these explanations. And I think maybe even at this point, they wanted to add, like, if this was supposed to be a season finale type thing, the last few episodes seem like they move so fast, and maybe they cut these episodes together so that they could add 2 more episodes on the end to carry the show into whatever the next season's going to be.
Yeah. Which, again, I think they can course correct this and make it something really good. We've gotten through the hard part, really. Cause this isn't the worst episode of the series by any means.
I thought it was actually really fun.
Yeah, it was still entertaining. And it rallied at the end for me, actually. So they have a throne room fight, and Lorca gets tossed out the moon door. And yeah, I was just like, I thought he was going to escape. But I'm like, oh wait, he had Stamets disable the emergency transporter, so he screwed himself there. Yep. And he just got stupid. Once he got there, he had all this great plan. He went to another freaking universe, got back, and then gets lame when he gets to the Imperial Palace. I was like, what?
He rushed to the end of that plan. Like his plan ended at getting his people out of the torture chambers. It ended there, and then it was like, okay, then we take over the ship, and that's like step C.
He fumbled on the goal line, man. He fumbled on the goal line.
He definitely did. Good job, Beast Mode. So Matt S says, some think Lorca was absorbed into the Spore network. What do you think of that theory? When he went out the moon door, he actually got absorbed into the mycelial network, whatever.
Okay, because he had the little blue energy signatures around him.
Yeah.
That's what I thought was going to happen. Like he was getting transported or something. And do you think it's going to be, I'll answer a question with a question. Do you think it's going to be kind of like a Nexus thing, from Star Trek Generations? Like once you're in some way, some version of you is always there. Maybe because he didn't travel through the Spore network. This was the most ridiculous thing about the show. When he flashed back about like how he got there, he was I was running in my ship and I was transporting and I get through an ion storm, and you went through an ion storm. Oh, it just switched the signal. Okay.
Yeah. That they needed to explain that away, so they added that in there. Yeah, that was definitely. And what do you think about that? Like a show kind of course correcting on that seemed like a course correction where they were like, oh wait, we never explained this thing. Let's just throw this line of dialogue in here.
Was. And what they could have done is just like, I needed to just find a reason to get out of the other universe. And he had been working with Stamets on the Spore network, and it's like, send me over there and, find a reason, but that he accidentally got over. Yeah, that was a little weird.
Ardena Zane says that sunball thing actually did kind of look like the Nexus.
Right? It does. So, and maybe they can fit that in with the canon that they now can make up completely on their own. And that's the Midnight Edge video I was talking about. That was their worry, was they had heard that the plot was supposed to be that this was a spoiler from a long time ago. This Michael Burnham does something that reboots the actual canon of Star Trek, and that's what they're going to do. I think it's temporary. I think they're just going to find a way that, again, I think it'll be more like Lost in Space, where they never get back to the right time. And each time they get back to, something will be cocked up a little bit. And that I'm okay with. Like I was okay with them not arriving at the same spot. So,
right.
I was cool with that. So yeah. And it ends, it ends pretty well. Again, this is a fast moving episode. Lorca does some stupid stuff, gets killed, and Philippa wants to go.
What did you think of Michael grabbing Philippa and during the transport to bring her back into the Prime universe with her?
It was very emotional. No, I was glad. It's a little ridiculous. Michael, it must be a horrible judge of character, because she was an emperor. She was the mother of the fatherland. Okay. And she killed the group of rebels that she tried to save. So now she brought her on the ship. So, and she hasn't had the best judgment in the world. And now that when she grabbed her and they get back there 9 months later, and the Klingons are winning the war.
Won the war, essentially.
Won the war.
They say. So there's now like a Klingon majority and a rebellion of Federation people, it looks like, going into next episode, where the Admiral and Sarek are back as like this resistance force.
Yeah, that could actually be interesting. Again, you know, and this whole time we've got two Klingons, or Ash Klingon, and then the other Klingon, Laurel, on board. And this is where I think the mirror stuff could have played out a little longer. If you stayed in the mirror universe a couple more episodes, you could have integrated them in and started working with them, because that's eventually what's going to happen. And maybe they're saving that, but they just didn't talk to them. They're like, oh, you're in another universe and let's get you away until later.
Do you think they're going to go back in and grab things out of the mirror universe now that they know it's there? Like, is that a thing?
I don't think they're done with the mirror universe at all.
Yeah, I
think it's an integral part of the show, especially when
it's
you bring
like the cue of this show. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go for it.
No, go on.
I was just gonna go into the comments a little bit, but I want to hear your.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
So before I go into the comments, I pulled a lot of like some of the interesting stuff for us to talk about out already. But if you want to use the super chat and help us out, go ahead. It's a little $. You can pledge us, a couple bucks, like a tip jar, and we'll definitely answer those if you use a super chat. Otherwise, I'm just going through with more of the speculative stuff out of the chat. But thank you all. There's 81 people now in the chat, so it's a fun thing for everyone. It makes the show even more fun for us the more people we have and the more invested you guys are. So if you're not watching it live, you should definitely check that out. It's a really fun experience, and I just want to thank everyone for joining us live. And in addition, again, we have Patreon over at patreon.com/nerdrotic. And there you can do monthly subscriptions. Once we get to $200, we'll start doing patron only content, patron casts, where we can even bring you guys on and talk about stuff. Our DVD vault will be talking about old movies and do like DVD commentary essentially. So let's get into some of these comments, Gary.
Yeah.
So early in the chat, A. Carter said, I was hoping this show was about Section 31. This would open up new technologies worlds, and if something isn't canon, they can easily explain it as never shared with the rest of Starfleet. Do you think it was a mistake that they didn't go that direction?
No, I mean, I would have liked to have seen, they could still bring them in, and I think they will, because it's a really cool, fully unexplored thing. I mean, Enterprise did a lot with it, but it still has a lot of, I think they can still do a lot with it. I would like to see more of it. How's that for an answer?
Me too.
The whole show surrounded, I think that would be good for another, like, that's a great idea for another series that's not like centered on a ship. It's more make like, once you successfully reboot Star Trek and there's already been one established one, this would be a great sideshow, kind of like DS9 was to Next Generation. I think that'd be really fun. Do like a spy Star Trek thing. That'd be cool.
You've been watching a lot of Counterpart, haven't you? No, I agree.
Have.
So Ghost World says, what? You like the Bicentennial Man looking robot thing?
I do. I like girl robots.
Me too. So. I feel like it adds, like, that bridge is a cool looking bridge with that crew. I think it's one of the more interesting looking crews. And I like the bridge of the Discovery. The color palette's not necessarily my thing, but like, I love that we got Saru interacting like as an actual captain with his crew on the bridge. I liked the star log that we got at the beginning of right after the opening credits. So yeah, and the girl robot has always been a fascination of ours on this podcast since the very beginning. We want to know more. We want to know that backstory. We need that episode. Give us that standalone. So Jody says, yeah, I was a bit surprised that the Klingons were suddenly victorious after only 9 months because it implied that Discovery's absence was such a tipping point in the war. What do you think about that, Gary?
Oh yeah, Michael wasn't there, so they were going to lose.
Clearly, without Michael.
Yeah, without Michael, they were done. That's it. Well, actually, Discovery was kind of important,
more than Discovery. Lorca, I feel, was important because he had the kind of militaristic tendencies from the Mirror universe that was like helpful in wartime. And I can see losing Lorca being a bad thing for their efforts for the Federation. And that actually goes into Apple Crow's question. how do you think Lorca got a command in the Prime universe in the first place? How did he like come in and get command so quickly?
Yeah, that's a really I have no idea. Just he rolled in and said, "I'm Lorca." So he accidentally transported over there, figured out where he was, got some clothes, some credits, or whatever got and found his way. Or was he already on his ship, and did he just kill Prime Lorca? Because yeah, that's what Redeemer 216 is asked. Where is Prime Lorca? That is a very good question. Did he kill Prime Lorca prior to that ship being destroyed in the Battle of Binary Star? So yeah, I don't know. That's a really good question that I think they need to answer.
Yeah, and I think they're leaving it. I think that's one of the questions they're leaving open on purpose, because we're going to get a Prime Lorca at some point. I mean, we have to, and that'll be that episode where he explains what he's been up to and like how he either got subdued by Mirror Lorca or like how he got detoured, whatever. Like I think that the Prime Lorca introduction episode will explain a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Redeemer 216. Jason Isaacs is a very good like character actor, and he will be missed on the show if he is gone big time.
Yeah, they can't get rid of him. I mean, he's like one of the main draws into this show for so many people, especially like me. I'm one of them. Without him, this show, to me, goes off the rails. There's a couple other great, good actors on it, but like he's the main draw for me.
Well, yeah, and he's, and not that I want a big sausage fest or anything like that, but he's like the only dude on the show, really. He's like there. I mean, I don't need a whole show of him, but man, he was the only dude.
Yeah, for sure.
Not a great one, I'd like to see the Prime Lorca, where he was still that hard. He's still probably pretty hard, but in a Federation sense,
Applecrow says he's pretty sure he only signed for one season, so he wouldn't be typecast. I hate that shit. If that actor actually made that choice, that's one of my pet peeves in actors is like, oh, I'm going to turn down a really great opportunity because I don't want to be typecast. Like, it's like, no, dude, go play that character. That's your job, to play characters. Like,
bruh, you're in your 50s, man. I mean, you better hope you get typecast and have a job for the next 10 years. Yeah, that would be terrible. I mean, he's successful in stage and all that stuff, but I mean, that's a good paycheck. That, guess what? This isn't a 26 episode season. You can go do your stage and movies and all kinds of other stuff.
You're already established. Like, give it a few years of being like a Star Trek icon. Like, what is wrong with that? I don't know. I have problems with actors who do that sort of thing. Matt Smith is getting on my nerves with that as well. And speaking of Matt Smith, Matt S asks, what was the green dot that fell on Tilly's shoulder? And like, that was the spore, right? Do we think that the spores have gotten out and they're going to like, do you think there was more than just watching the spores dissolve around them and it was pretty? Like, do you think there was something to that one that dissolved into Tilly's shoulder?
An intelligent writer would have written that in for something, but I think it was just written because it was pretty. I mean, that was kind of a backhanded compliment, by the way.
I'm worried that you're right.
I thought that too, and it faded into Tilly. We never got to see the real Captain Killy, by the way, and the real,
you're right,
or the Mirror Discovery. I was kind of disappointed at. So yeah, I think we're gonna totally get all that stuff back. Yeah, I hope there's something to that, because they really focused on it, and it did turn a different color. I don't know what that was supposed to mean, but by the end of tomorrow, when people have dissected this episode fully, we'll find out the answer, I'm sure.
Do you think it was like when everyone was looking at Jon Snow's eyes changing different colors at the end of that one season? When that
you mean everyone?
Happened?
You mean me?
Yeah, like, well, I know some people.
On my HD rewinding. Okay, I saw his pupils dilate. What does that mean?
He turned purple. Shout out to Josh Whitler out there for the Hollywood Reporter, my buddy. He was definitely writing whole articles based on that. So
and they're all it was the lighting.
It was just lighting. Yeah, exactly. Actually, Gary, you just brought this up, but like, what's up with Prime Discover or Mirror Discovery? Like, are we like, we don't, that's still potentially in the Prime universe, right?
Yeah, with Captain Killy.
Like, that has to be a thing. Do you think that we're going to get that back?
Oh, I think so. My big question is, are we ever going to see the Enterprise?
Yeah. Well, that actually leads into a discussion that was happening. John Man McFly said they will definitely time travel again. Otherwise, why did they bother with the 9-month stuff? And then Arturo responded, yeah, what are the odds of another time travel thing? And then Jody responded, yeah, because that works so well for Barry on a certain speedster-centric CW show. So I liked that conversation as it was going on. But I mean, like, yeah, this time travel definitely opens up to getting other Star Trek stuff mangled into this timeline that they're creating.
Yeah. Well, that's not going to stop them from being bad or not, but I'm actually for it in this show because if this is just going to be established canon, which it just can't be. They can't be that crazy. That again, we're not purists, but that would piss so many Star Trek fans off permanently. But that's what I kind of thought when I first heard that this was gonna not be just one season, an anthology, and they're going to stick with it. The only way they can explain their way out of this one is Lost in Space. So I think they're going to just never get it right.
So do you think that we're calling this the Prime timeline, but maybe it's just the Discovery timeline and this is its own thing?
Yeah, it's the Discovery and the Prime timeline fixing stuff, kind of like that show Dennis likes, Timeless.
Yeah, it's Timeless.
Yeah, so it's going to be running around fixing stuff, and as they go along, they'll get like random crew members on, which can be kind of fun. That could be kind of cool. And like maybe by the end, they'll actually fix it and they won't exist anymore or something like that.
Lore Reloaded said a theory from an anti-trekker I heard, which was crazy, that they will time travel back to the Battle of the Binary Stars and fix it so that there was no war at all. I don't know. I don't think that they're going to go that far with this. I think that they're going to plot their course, but I don't see them rewinding and trying to undo stuff that they've done on the show. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know if that would stop them. I'm not so sure, man. The one thing is, like, it's predictable in an unpredictable way. Does that make sense? We're really missing a Langley here. Where's Langley, man?
Yeah, we need some more knowledge drops from Langley.
I'm sure. But yeah, I don't know. Man.
What do you think of Jodie's ideal Star Trek anthology show, which was basically just the Klingon War from varying viewpoints? So I think that would be cool, and it might be better than like at least what we got in the first half of the season. But I don't need a like wartime Star Trek show. Like that was never a thing that I was like craving. I've wanted more of just like a trekking through the universe, seeing cool things and like solving small like problems in societies on the outskirts of the universe. You know what I mean? Like I like the sociological experiment of Star Trek more than like, hey, we're at war with the Klingons, And so for me, my ideal anthology show would be like the Discovery just going from place to place and dealing with societal problems that are happening across the universe and see like how they can affect change in different places, no matter what's going on, and like really digging into like alien culture. And like, I don't know, I would like to see a more culturally and not talking about like current events, but just a more culturally anthropologic Discovery Trek, which I think the Next Generation had a lot of.
Yeah, that's where I kind of differ from you. I think we've done that a lot. I think now like balls out Saving Private Ryan war stuff. No, but I think that'd be fun as an anthology, maybe like a web series. But I think it would be cool. That's what I kind of want. Go in the future and have the Federation kind of cracking, like they're in this crazy war with somebody completely different, from some other quadrant, and it's really like taxing them, and it's starting to break the Federation, and the Federation has to start doing unfederation stuff, and if you wanted to like change the whole ideal of Star Trek but keep the main part there, like that would be different for them having to deal with, we never got the in DS9, I guess the biggest disappointment was the Dominion War. They never really showed the Dominion War. That was just this big thing. It was talked up. DS9 did a great job with it, and I always thought that they were going to pass it on to the movies, and we'd see like an actual war Star Trek movie. We've seen battles, but we haven't seen like war. And that was one of the biggest disappointments, that we never saw like a kick-ass Dominion War movie. Yeah, I really wanted that. So.
You know what else would be really cool is like an Ender's Game style, like Federation school, like the different officers like working their way up in the ranks of the Federation, or like, when they're actually at school. I
They
think
talked
that
about
could
that.
be pretty fun. Yeah.
That was a thing that was pitched in the early 2000s, late 90s and early 2000, a whole Starfleet show. I
Oh
think it
man,
almost happened.
Starfleet. That would be. I think that would be, if done well, really really cool. It'd be hard to do it well though, because you'd have to be pretty deft with the writing hand in a show like that.
Yeah, I mean they've still painted themselves into a corner with that. Like they still did a bunch of things they didn't need to do. I mean, people were hungry for Well, not super hungry, but I was, when I first heard it was coming back to TV, I was stoked. I'm like, that's
Yeah.
where it belongs. Star Trek belongs on television. And yeah, they just painted themselves into a corner. They can get out of it, and I'd love to be proved wrong. They, like you said earlier, they did a lot of stuff earlier in the season that they explained. So, and that's the thing with recapping, we're doing it episode by episode. So if you fast forward to episode 13, we'll probably sound like complete jackasses. Well, we do now, but I mean back then too. And
That'll never stop us.
that will never stop us. So
yeah, so next week it looks like we get the return of Sarek and the Admiral. It looks like we get a little bit about Georgiou saying like, hey, if you want to really stomp these guys, I can help you stomp these guys, talking about the Klingons.
yeah.
What do you think about, like, the next episode looks interesting, and like these next two episodes probably exist to set off the next season. How are you feeling about like where this is going from the preview?
Yeah, I thought they were going to end the season with them getting out of the mirror universe. So I was a little, yeah. So I think that something's going to happen with Ash Vok or Vok Tyler.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be something with those two, and I think they're going to jump again at least once before the end. I think they'll be trapped in that. Next episode they'll be like, we're 9 minutes late, and we're this and that, and they're like, we got to go again. Come on, Stamets, one more time. But I don't know how they're going to power the network. Their little interior forest is dead, so they'll have to find another way. But with Michelle Yeoh, I don't know. I like her much better. I don't know what they're gonna. I have no freaking idea. I kind of thought I had an idea where they were going. I wouldn't be surprised to see Lorca come back like at the end. No, you said he signed for one and he's done, huh? See, that would be cool to bring him back, to bring the Prime one back at the end. That would be cool. But
I think that would be cool. I think with Georgiou, I think it's kind of like, she may be a fascist, but she's our fascist. Let's like use her to let's keep her morally in the right place and use her tactical, wartime experience and how she rose to be emperor of the mirror universe. And I think that's probably the story they're going to tell in the next couple episodes. And like, I think it'll be interesting. I also like that the Admiral's coming back and that she's going to find out what went down with Lorca and be like that may also be where we find out how Lorca rose to power, because like it would be the Admiral that put him there, and she's got betrayed by him. So yeah, I think that could be interesting as well.
Yeah, and then bringing Sarek back, is I didn't know he left the ship. Last time I saw him, he was injured on the ship, so they must have taken him home. I just thought he was there. I had again, mental map. They're not very good at that. Okay.
Yeah, I think they shot him off to like a hospital somewhere.
Yeah, they must have. I mean, that was an assumption, though. So I don't know. What if Philip becomes one of the shadow leaders of Section 31 from Jodie? That'd be interesting.
I don't know. I think Section 31 is the Lady Stoneheart of
Star Trek.
Yeah,
something that's a really great concept, and we would love to see. And
all the fans want it, and they'll never do it for us.
But the creators, that's the problem. That's why it's just a miracle sometimes we get Star Trek on the air. Like all the crap it's got to go through to get put out. And you talked about that when they were talking about RoboCop 2 sequel. It's like, yeah, the guy who wrote the original wants to rewrite it, but until it gets, a director is going to rewrite it, and then it's going to be a completely different movie 5 people down the road. So I mean, yeah, it's still a miracle that we get this stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, and a happy miracle. Like even at its like most mediocre, I don't like seeing bad stuff, but like as long as they keep it like entertaining, sometimes I do, I guess. As long as they keep it entertaining,
No, sorry.
I'd rather have it than not have it.
Yeah. No, that's sometimes.
Yeah,
What, got any more comments?
No, those were the main ones. Yeah, let us know if you guys have anything else, and you can always leave comments in the main comments section because these live comments don't get ported over to the main one. So you can always leave comments there, and we try to respond to them throughout the week in between episodes. What else is going on in Neurotic this week, Gary?
Oh, sorry, I was reading some more comments there. What's going on is on Monday we're going to do the Alienist one more time. We're going to give it a shot. Not feeling that show, but we're going to give it another shot on Monday. And then Wednesday we have a double header of the X-Files and the Happy finale. Happy finale is going to take priority over the X-Files this Wednesday. And we're going to have a couple of special things that pay attention to the Twitter and Facebook. We'll be announcing those. Maybe I'll even do a video to announce like we've got the giveaway, but we might have a guest of some kind. So we're going to have a lot of fun with the Happy. If you're not watching Happy, people, that is a great show. On Friday, we got the Friday Night Live podcast. Then Saturday, we're doing Counterpart, another great show that people should be watching.
I just started watching it, and it's so like it's not even really my bag, but like I really loved the first episode, and I'm going to be watching those tonight for sure.
Alternate reality spy drama with J.K. Simmons playing two parts.
J.K. is amazing.
Brilliant in it. And then Sunday we're back with Star Trek Discovery. We are lots of stuff. And I'm going to be home all weekend, so maybe I'll do some other videos. But I can get to a couple more comments here. I got a couple. Well,
I also want to say on Tuesday, we are launching our Twitch channel TPK_games. It's on Twitch. We're launching the campaign, which is our Dungeons and Dragons show. So we're 2 days away. If you follow TPK_games on Twitter, I'm tweeting out the characters that are going to be, the actual characters and the artwork that's going to be taking place in the game. And I'm just really excited. It's been a lot of work, but we're finally going live on Tuesday. And I'm happy to be putting this thing out there into the world finally. So it'll show up on Tuesday on Twitch. Then we'll have it over on the website and at Nerdrotic here on YouTube on Thursday.
Right on. And we will have a link to that in the description when this rolls over into a video. So I was, and I can't wait, by the way. I was going over some of the comments, and they're really building up Tilly quite a bit. I don't know what for, to be honest with you, but she's a lot less annoying than she was earlier in the season. And then stress-free cases, Stamets is learning how to ride the Mycelian superhighway. Time travel will be a cinch. Well, all he has to do is follow the music, and they'll get to 9 months. Follow
Hugh's music. Yes.
It was interesting they chose 9 months. I don't know. Really odd.
I thought that was really weird too. I mean, there's got to be a reason. We'll find out eventually what it is. But I thought,
again, with good writing, like no detail is left untouched, and that's what viewers are used to. You can call us or anybody you want entitled, but when you watch so much good TV like a Mr. Robot or Game of Thrones and blah blah blah, a thing like your little spark turning from blue to green and landing on Tilly's shoulder, that should mean something. We'll see if they, what? I think we can use that as our barometer. Like if they follow through on that, and then we'll go, okay, maybe they got some hope, because like there's so many shows like Mr. Robot and this Counterpart show I was just talking about. Every freaking detail means something. Like you really, you can't like space out for a minute or you're going to get lost in that show.
Yep.
But not in a bad way. You just really want to be engaged in it.
Well, it adds rewatchability too. If you have like a bunch of little, like there's Easter eggs, right? Which is what the CW does. But the breadcrumbs that a well-written show leaves for you along the way add to the rewatchability of the thing, because you can go back and be like, oh yeah, that pays off in this way. And so, that's what, I did not trust in the first half of this season. And I'm starting to trust a little bit more, because I feel like a lot of the breadcrumbs that I didn't love that they were dropping ended up actually paying off relatively well. Not all of them, but some of them. And so where I was grading it very harshly, now I'm giving a little more latitude to where it's like, okay, well, they may actually correct this stuff within the narrative itself.
Yes, and they've showed signs of doing that. So they've caught me like a couple times where I was bitching about stuff. I'm all, oh, okay, that explains it. That's cool. The Klingons, they still need to do that. Like, just do the eugenics thing. Like they've already done that. So it's like, make it just they try to change their appearance or make there's different races or something like that, and then it's explained like that they're Klingons from a certain planet within the Klingon Empire.
Right.
Okay, that's fine. They look different. That would make actually a lot of sense. All Klingons looking alike would be kind of silly. So I think that's explainable. Then just freaking explain it. Then we're good. And the Spock thing, whatever. I won't get into it now. But yeah. So I don't know. I didn't totally hate this episode, but it might be like kind of a Stockholm syndrome Star Trek thing. I don't know. I have no idea.
I definitely was higher on it than you. Like, it was ridiculous in some good and some bad ways, but I was on board with this. I've been on board since the Mirror Universe, and they're gonna have to I think once they start going back to Klingon stuff, because that's the weakest stuff of the show, that's where it might, get a little bit grindier for me again. But the more that they deal with different machinations of the Federation, and like dealing with fallout from the Mirror Universe, like that stuff is the interesting stuff of the show for me.
Oh, sorry. That you're right. And I think the Klingons just, they didn't need to go there. They could have done something completely different. I would have been so happy. I mean, create a new villain. They have, like I saw Jody mention the Borg. Like, don't bring the Borg in, but like something like just do something new. I'm cool with that, even if it is a prequel. I'm fine.
Yep.
But Agreed. They need to resolve that. And the Ash, the Vok Tyler thing, if he just stays that way, where there's like a dual personality in there, I think that would be interesting too. Just play with that, go with it, roll with it,
Killer Frost it.
And yeah, he loves Laurel and Michael, and that could get to some stuff you've never done in Star Trek before. They really wanted to be stuff that you've never done in Star Trek before. They dropped some F-bombs, then we can have species three-ways. Why not?
Yep.
Yeah, we've done so much already.
Exactly. If they amp up the ridiculousness, like, that's a way to go to, like, go for it.
What the hell?
Yeah.
And that's the writing room. It probably says it right over their door.
Yeah.
So, oh man. You want to check over the comments one more time before we?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of chat.
We have so many. I just like to try to get as many as possible.
Yeah.
You kind folks who took the time to watch us and write, and you're funny too. You guys are funny.
Yeah. Yeah. If you guys aren't live for the live chat, you're missing something. We take a lot of the questions and the speculative stuff and like funny comments here and there, but like there are whole like discussion threads that there's no way we could communicate on an audio podcast. That's pretty amazing. You guys are really great.
That's right.
Listeners, and I just love interacting with
them. And again, just to pitch another show, if you guys want to just come in and chit chat, that's what we do on Friday. Friday's like an open chat. We don't recap anything. We talk about whatever, and we really do try to get to every comment. So and they're a lot of fun, and they go forever. We can some have been an hour and a half, and some have been 5 hours.
Yeah.
So there you go. We're great background noise for a lot of stuff.
Yep. So. That's what we try to be.
Yep. We're here to entertain you. And I don't know how good we do, but cool. Yeah, so I am looking forward to start. This is one of my favorite things to recap. I love talking about it on the channel. It's a lot of fun. Even if it's not good all the time, that's okay. Like with the show like Happy, I'm just like, wow, that was really good. Liked it.
Yeah.
It was really good. Haven't said anything bad about that. So
Happy's crazy.
Happy's so crazy good. Oh my god. And we got I was listening to I did a little road trip, went down to Palm Springs. I was listening to The Expanse audiobook on the way up, and man, I cannot wait for that show. That is
a few more
sci-fi. Oh, I know, a few more months. It's supposed to be April, but it looks like it's being pushed to June. So, but we'll be there. All right, man. I guess I'll take us out.
Yeah.
thank you, everyone, again, and may the small folks sing songs of your greatness.
Awesome. Bye, everybody. See you next week or
Thanks.
sooner, hopefully.
Cheers.